Report. Happy Monday. What is up? Tammy, D Nice, Matthew, Gunner Girl, Rochelle. Rochelle saying I had a bit of a refrigerator scare, was leaking underneath. However, I discovered it was actually the water spilling inside the fridge. Thank goodness. However, a huge part of me thinks that I'm being haunted. Like, I totally swear there was no reasonable explanation why this water would be leaking. There was no hole in the water. Wow. That's crazy. Lisa Boo, what is up? Wendy. Tammy, how's everyone doing? Wait a few more minutes for people to trickle in. Julissa, how's it going? Did anyone do anything interesting this weekend or this past weekend while we wait for a few more minutes here? While we wait. D Nice goes, Lisa, I got something for you. Hopefully we can meet up soon. Oh, that's cool. Thanks, D Nice. Super cool. Rochelle goes, oh my God, so hot today. At least here it actually cooled down. It was actually nicer. The past weekend was kind of warm. I mean, it was in the upper 80s, but that's warm for us right now. But I heard that the Midwest or something like that is going through a heat wave. Julissa goes, great. How are you? My oldest graduated from UCD. Oh, how awesome. I'm doing great, Julissa. That is awesome. Julissa. Lisa Boo goes, Project Metal Music says, A up, Project Metal Music. Carol, how's it going? I pumped up the tires on my bike and I took my bike out today. Riding bike, not motorcycle bike. And how's it going? Hi, everybody. Everyone ready for some new X-rated fun? Tammy goes, it's always hot in summer in Texas. Tammy, we don't normally get hot until July. Nerd Report in the house. But this past weekend was warm. Not used to the heat yet. Once I get used to the heat, then there's no problems. And goes X-Files. It's a different type of X-Files, Anne. No, I haven't found any stories like that today, but I'll find some. I tend to find them on accident. Don't ask me how. I think today was nicer. It was like overcast day, so it wasn't too bad today. Rochelle, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Welcome, Dusty, Lily Smith, Shiloh Toto, Daisy the Vegas Pisces, JJ, Hyacinth, to the Wolfpack. Hearts for Rochelle, and welcome to all the new Wolfpack members. Thank you, Rochelle. I appreciate that. And if you're new to memberships, they are good for 1 month. And welcome to the Wolfpack, where we are a bunch of crazies. No, I'm just kidding. We're not, but Emily goes, 90 and so humid here in Georgia. Oh, I hate the humidity. I cannot stand the humidity. We had a nice breeze here. I was enjoying it. Because I think the heat got me over the weekend because I went walking in it because Saturday it was almost 90 and I was walking in it and I think it got me. Today we got a break though, luckily. Rochelle goes, though we are a little spooky, maybe not crazy. And thank you for the the super chat. Train time. Hearts for Anne. Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that. You're awesome, Anne. Hearts for Anne, guys, as well. Wendy goes, the breeze is the only saving grace. It is. It is. Or the shade. D Nice goes, not done camping though. Gonna be in Big Bear at the end of the month. Oh, that sounds fun, D Nice. And thank you for also gifting 5 memberships. Welcome, Peggy, Billy Cat, Dawn, Mistress Meg, JS Porku, to the Wolf Pack. Hearts for Anne. Thank you, Anne, again. Hearts to Anne and all the new Wolf Pack members. Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that. You're awesome. Let me as we're waiting for people to trickle in before I get into the imaginary friend tale, Lisa Boo, thank you for your super chat. Lots of love and train time. Choo choo. Hearts for Lisa Boo as well. Thank you, Lisa Boo. I appreciate that. Thank you. As we wait for people to trickle in, I'll start off with movie news. Sometimes I'll go into movie news just to start off before we get into the creepiest imaginary friend story. Just so I could wait for people to come in a few more minutes here. Nicolas Cage's, hold on, of course, stupid me didn't share it. So if you're a fan of Nicolas Cage, he has this movie coming out. When I was Googling movie news, his name seemed to be in the search. He is my birthday twin, so I am like a fan of his by default. I have heard of this film, but apparently it's got some reviews on it already. But I saw the release date. It's not releasing till July 12th. Nicolas Cage's repulsive, discomforting horror movie lands perfect Rotten Tomato score. Nicolas Cage's brief blip in his recent run of career best reviews seem to be well and truly over, as his new horror movie has debuted with a perfect Rotten Tomato score. I usually take Rotten Tomato scores with a grain of salt. Even some reviews, I do take it with a grain of salt because you can't really critique anything unless you actually see it. So I kind of take it with a grain of salt. Like I don't really think anything of it until I actually see the film. Like many of Cage's recent films, Longlegs is not a blockbuster by any means, but it is another unexpected offering from the comeback king. The neon horror film has made a huge impact thanks to clever and mysterious marketing campaign. So clever, in fact, that even now, as the movie prepares to make its cinema debut, none of the trailers or marketing material has fully revealed Cage's central serial killer. This is something that is pretty much unheard of in a time when films were well known for releasing 3 or 4 trailers, each revealing more and more of the moments that should be saved for people to see for the first time in theaters. Actually, I think this is smart because now it's going to pique everyone's interest. Because sometimes I hate it when trailers, I don't know about you guys, but I hate it when trailers, you watch the trailer and then you go see the movie and half the movie is in the trailer. Like that kind of irritates me. Not half, but a lot of like the good scenes are in the trailer. So this is kind of cool that they're doing this. Dusty, what is up? And Nikki Bella, how's it going? Longlegs follows Micah Monroe's character, FBI recruit Lee Harker, who is assigned to an unresolved case filled with occult clues leading to a twisted and chilling serial killer played by an unrecognizable Cage. Ooh, this has piqued my interest. As Harker uncovers clues to the location of the killer and his next potential victims, she attempts to bring him to justice before he can kill again. The first reviews from Rotten Tomatoes critics have unanimously hailed the film as one of the darkest and unsettling films of the year, setting the film up to be not only another success for Cage, but for the low-budget horror genre that has been booming with originality over the last few years. And some of those low-budget films are actually some of the greatest. Not poo, blood, and honey, though. Rochelle goes, I know exactly what you're saying, Lisa. However, when that does come in handy is when you don't feel like purchasing a movie, but you feel like rewatching, just watch the trailer. True, true. D Nice goes, Nick Cage is a national treasure. Emily goes, love Nick Cage since Valley Girl. Wendy Marino goes, Face Off. I loved him in Con Air. That's probably one of my, and Gone in 60 Seconds. Those are two of my favorite films with him in it. Nerd Report goes, support today is amazing. Thanks, everyone. Thank you guys. I do appreciate it. Both Dread Central's Mary Beth McAndrews and Slash Films' Bill Bria call the movie one of the scariest movies of the year and one of the best films of 2024. And I do it, like I said, I take it with a grain of salt because some people have different opinions about horror than I do. And sometimes I feel like some of the horror movies that critics praise tend to be overrated. IGN Movies, Katie Reif adds that the film may feel familiar, but it has just enough of Osgood Perkins' surreal horror to allow it to stand out from the crowd. Longlegs Killer lurked for years in Osgood Perkins' thoughts. Longlegs is one of the few movies released that is going to arrive in cinema with all of its secrets intact. Having delivered a perfect marketing campaign, the vague imagery and only the barest bones of a story. However, in the latest issue of SFX magazine, Perkins shares some details about the inspiration and development of the movie and its central enigmatic character. For those reviews making note of a familiarity about the movie, that is not something that will come to surprise to Perkins. During his interview with the magazine, the director mentioned several prominent dark thrillers that Longlegs harks back to, he says. So if it's the Silence of the Lambs, but it's also kind of Zodiac, it's sort of Seven, there's kind of a pattern, a cipher, the sort of things you recognize. I'll say the word Manson early on in the movie. Do you know what I mean? You make it fair, but then you do your truth on the other side. However, anyone thinking that Perkins is simply copying these iconic psychological thrillers couldn't be more mistaken. As he explained in the interview, shadowy figure played by Cage in Longlegs is one that has been living with him for some time, he explained. All writers are the same. We all have a bin, a drawer, a pile of things that are free floating. One thing that kept floating around was this person. My feeling was that he drove up to people's houses where their children had a birthday party and he brought something for them, like a little piano or a stuffed animal. He was an entertainer of some kind. This guy kind of sort of sniffed around the edges of various projects. It's like having a character in a recurring dream, right? It's like turning into a radio. This guy kept coming into my channel. You have to listen for the things, and the things say long legs. You say, okay, I agree. And then you wonder, why is long legs? And that becomes the word of the creative process. So this guy who did these things, he became someone a cop was chasing. Longlegs is certainly shaping up to be one of the most enigmatic and interesting movies of the summer. While it may not be about to compete with the likes of Deadpool and Wolverine for supremacy at the box office, there is little doubt that Longlegs is going to become one of the most talked about releases of 2024 and of Cage's continued renaissance. And if you guys are looking forward to it, it does sound interesting to me. Longlegs is going to be released in July of 2024 on the 12th. So about a couple of weeks from now, which is pretty interesting. That does sound interesting and different. When I heard the title Longlegs, I was thinking it was about spiders. Delay Lux, how's it going? Emily Parkinson goes, Pay the Ghost was pretty good. Wendy goes, all my faves. I love my psychological thrillers. Lisa Boo goes, it sounds cool. It does sound cool. Sounds like a cool movie. There is one that it was released in theaters. I'm waiting for it to come on streaming. In a Violent Nature. I'm looking forward to that film. And then of course, I'm anticipating Pooh, Blood and Honey, Electric Boogaloo 2, but they're saying that it won't be released until October of this year. So I have quite a ways to wait to watch that one, to check that one out. Hopefully it comes out sooner to streaming, but we'll see. Cause I'm curious about that one. I've seen reviews. They're saying this one is way better than the first, and it's from someone who did not like the first one as well as me. So I'm kind of curious. Chris, how's it going? Tyrana. All right, guys. Did any of you have an imaginary friend when you were growing up? I always have this thing that I always have the thing that kids are more open than we are, and they can see things that we can't see. So, I actually came across this by accident because I was looking into past lives and I saw articles on imaginary friends. And I was like, oh, this sounds cool. Lisa Bugo sure did. I don't remember if I did. I know I had a big imagination though when I was younger. I had a huge imagination. Super big. So I'm pretty sure I probably had one. I just don't remember. Plus, I was an only child, so that I probably did have one at some point. I don't know how creepy my imaginary friends were, but Lisa Boo goes, her name was Jenny. Chris, you're on time. Wendy goes, Mrs. Beasley was my imaginary friend. I had stuffed animals. Like I had this, I remember it was like this bear, and his name was Kissy Kissy. So I had a lot of stuffed animals, but I don't remember having an imaginary friend that I had called out. Emily Parkinson's, though, I don't remember one, but I know I saw things. D Nice goes, honestly, being the youngest child, I was never left alone. I very much enjoyed my solitude as a kid. True, I've heard D Nice. I've heard of that with people that have like a big family, or semi big family, that they love their solitude. I mean, I don't hate my solitude, so I guess that's not. I never did. I got it. It's something I'm used to. Wendy goes, she had pulled a cord. Rochelle goes, I used to brew potions in a wagon with my siblings, and we would be in the back garden with the willow tree. Oh, that is cool, Rochelle. Chris Barber goes, I didn't have one, but I had a lot of stuffed animals. I was like you, Chris. I had a lot of stuffed animals and toys. Rochelle goes, AKA potions was anything we could find in the yard mixed with water. That's cool, though. That's cool. I remember when they were remodeling this house and there's a bunch of trenches because they were putting the piping in. I would go in the trenches and play and pretend I was like a what was it? A gnome or something. D Nice goes, as the 30th grandchild, I need to be alone. Oh my gosh, D Nice. Wendy goes, I like and appreciate my alone time. There's nothing wrong with that because sometimes we do need that alone time. So I found this article. I have other ones too. 30, and this is from Bored Panda, 30 of the creepiest stories about children's imaginary friends that might send chills down your spine. And I know on previous streams I had shown videos of kids, and I know Gunner Girl had sent me one too. She sent me one of a little girl going in for a hug or in a kiss, and she was at grandparents' grave site. They were visiting or something like that, and she saw something. I am a true believer that they do see something and they're not making that up. And I also showed one of a little boy who said that his grandfather was in the room, and the mother was like, no, you're lying. Anne goes, I had an imaginary life where I was an undercover cop as a child and would save everyone from some imaginary criminals. That is cool. Chris used to make milkweed soup. Emily goes, sometimes you need alone time to keep a small shred of sanity. True. That's very true. That's why I do a lot of walking and hiking, or I took my bike out today. It helps clear the mind, keeps the nerves at bay, whatever it may be. Keeps your mood up. With some cool Funko Pops on the left. That's a cool Funko Pop, actually. Children have incredibly vivid imaginations. If they are playing as a princess, superhero, or wicked witch, they can put on an Oscar-worthy performance without even 5 minutes of rehearsal. If they are tasked with coming up with a fantasy creature in an art class or an incredible invention in science class, within 15 minutes, they will have created something so spectacular that a team of adults could spend months working on something only half as impressive. The amazing minds of kids are usually fascinating and intriguing, but sometimes they can be a bit frightening as well. In honor of spooky season, this article probably came out. Yeah, this article came out in October. In honor of spooky season, we've gathered some of the creepiest stories Reddit users have heard children share about their imaginary friends down below, and will warn you, these tales might make you want to sleep with one eye open. From vivid descriptions of people in their bedrooms at night to friends who commit violent acts, some of these imaginary characters sound a bit more like ghosts and demons than friends. Keep reading to also find an interview we were lucky enough to receive from child therapist Katie Lear on the topic of imaginary friends. Be sure to upvote stories that make you reconsider your plans to have kids, and feel free to tell any terrifying tales you've heard children share in the comments below. Then, if you're interested in checking out another Board Panda article featuring creepy things kids have said, we recommend reading this article. And you might want to turn off all the lights. Thank you, Delay Lex, for reminding me, because sometimes I forget to check. Thank you, D Nice, just because for your PayPal hearts for D Nice, because my phone does not ring anymore, which is weird. Last stream it decided to chime. It has a mind of its own, so I do apologize. And thank you, Delea, for your PayPal as well. Twinkies, any coffee, hearts for Delea, and hearts for D Nice. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Tinkle Tits, what's up? Hashtag team no kids. I'm in the same boat, Tinkle Tits. Matthew goes, I don't remember having one when I tried to sleep. I used to see patterns, but that could have just been natural floaters in my eyes. So this is the first story of an imaginary friend. My son stopped talking to his imaginary friend for months after his nephew, who was 15, took his own life. My son, who was not quite 5, was the apple of his eye. My nephew treated my son like a little brother, and since his mom watched my son while I worked, they spent tons of time together. I had simply told my son his cousin was sick from sadness and he had passed away. I would remind him every time before we went to their house so he wouldn't pester my sister about where he was. One day he said, Mom, you keep saying he's not here anymore, but he is. He sits on my bed before I go to sleep and talks to me. He would not be dissuaded. This went on for months. He knew things we did not speak about around him that happened. My nephew's grandpa on his dad's side passed a few months later. That's when my son told me his cousin told him he wouldn't be able to visit anymore. He was going on a train with his grandpa and they couldn't come back again. Last thing he told them was to never play with pew-pews. They weren't safe. My nephew took his life with a pew-pew, wigged me the hell out. Wow. So I guess this is some insight about this story from a child therapist. To gain some insight of imaginary friends and how common it is for children to have them, we reached out to child therapist. She told Board Panda, that it's actually more common for kids to have imaginary friends than to not have them. Research suggests that 65% of children will have an invisible playmate at some point during their childhood. It's totally normal. In fact, parents can rest easy knowing that having an imaginary friend is correlated with high school intelligence and creativity later in life, Katie noted. It's a form of play and in nearly every case a sign of healthy development. It seems that children who spend more time playing alone may rely more on their inner life for entertainment. We see only children and firstborns creating invisible friends more often than other kids, which seems to support the theory. Julissa goes, you guys can have one of my kids. Emily goes, the movie Imaginary is coming out soon too. Yes, I have that on my wait list, Emily. Can't wait when it comes out to streaming. And I'm also waiting for Abigail to pop up on Peacock. I'm not sure. I keep getting, when I do searches to find out when it's coming out on Peacock, I don't get a straight answer. So I'm waiting for that one too, because I'm looking forward to seeing that, even though the trailer did not grab me for that one. Matthew goes, some kind of life cycle, young sees things and then many stop. Then when you get old, you can see more things as you could when a child. So, number 2. So maybe not scary, but definitely weird. When I was little, I claimed to have an imaginary friend who had light brown hair and wore a nightgown, and she had stars for eyes. Well, my niece was living at my old childhood home, and she told me that she has a friend who misses me, and she asked why I went away. When I asked who, she described my old imaginary friend. It was super spooky. Edit. I have been informed that this is scary. My apologies. That is creepy though. That you had your imagine that you had an imaginary friend that you thought was imaginary, and then your niece decides to live in your childhood home and talks of the same thing. That is crazy. Number 3. Most of my extended family live around the same area, so we have lots of gatherings. For the backstory, one of my uncles, let's call him Steve, lost a childhood friend when he was 7. Steve and his friend, let's call him Jack, were having a play date one afternoon and got a bit dirty in some mud. So Steve's mother gave Jack a pair of Steve's shoes to borrow. When Jack's father came to pick up him up after the play date, they forgot to put back on Jack's shoes, and Jack accidentally got into the car with the borrowed shoes still on. Tragically, the father and Jack got into a terrible car crash on the way home, which killed 7-year-old Jack. Oh, that is sad. The family had him buried in the shoes he had borrowed from Steve. I'm not sure why. Fast forward 30 years to a family gathering in 2010. My 6-year-old cousin Sarah is playing alone with toys in a quieter room of the house. My uncle Steve comes up to her and asks her what she is playing. Sarah responds saying that she is playing with a friend. Holding back a smile, Steve asked who her imaginary friend is. Sarah continued to play while saying that she is playing with his friend Jack and that he is sorry he forgot to give your shoes back. My uncle's jaw nearly dropped. He had not talked about Jack in years, let alone tell the story to a 6-year-old. No one had brought up Jack that day, nor at any family gathering recently. Every time I remember this incident, it gives me chills. That is crazy. Project Metal music, gay up! Matthew goes, stars for eyes sound like the monkeys. Davy Jones falling in love with a girl and his eyes sparkled. Wendy goes, I had a voice calling out my name in high school. Hey, you, hey, you. Oh, that is creepy. That is creepy. When it comes to what these imaginary friends are usually like, Katie says they can be pretty much anything, child or adult, human or animal. There's a ton of variety. She says, in general, imaginary friends seem to range from friendly to mildly mischievous. I think it's much less common for children to create scary or violent imagery, imaginary friends like we're hearing about in this Reddit thread. It might sound alarming, but I don't think having a creepy imaginary buddy is immediately cause for concern, Katie said. If this were my child or a child on my caseload, I'd be curious about whether having a naughty imaginary friend was giving the child an opportunity to explore feelings and behaviors that aren't socially acceptable. For example, it's not okay for me to hit people, but maybe I can let that impulse out if my imaginary friend does it. Yeah, but she's not explaining the previous story. She literally like whoosh, like that does not explain the previous story. Like, how did she know of Jack when no one had mentioned it to her? Number 4. So, this is actually my story of when I was a kid. I had an imaginary friend named Derek who was a carbon copy of me. We were completely identical. I played with Derek for years, longer than what normal kids do. But he would always look at my mom and older sister with a sense of sadness. Eventually, he went away. 23 years later, I'm digging through my mom's safe to grab some paperwork she's kept for me, and I see a stillborn death certificate of a boy named Derek who shared my birthday. It was only then I found out I was actually a twin, and my twin Derek died during childbirth. Creepy, right? Ooh, that gave me chills. Elaine, how's it going? That gave me chills. What the heck? A child therapist cannot explain that one. They cannot. How do you explain that? Delay Lux goes, how sad and creepy. It is sad, but it is creepy. Like, how do you explain that one? The name and everything. But the fact, it is sad, but the fact that his imaginary friend was his twin is crazy. So he was able to meet his twin, which if you want to think, which is kind of cool that he did not know about. Number 5, not imaginary friend, but hopefully creepy enough to count. My daughter is 2, and since she could talk, she has always chatted happily to herself in her crib, and she drifts off. It's super cute. Usually just things like go see Nana, go see Papa, hello Ani, hello Tim, her aunt and uncle. My wife and I love to listen in on the baby monitor and talk about how cute she was. Then one night she said, Satan! In that tone that only little girls have, that is so sweet it chills the bone when they say something like this. It evolved over a week into like, it's Satan, or Satan in the sun, or my personal favorite, good night everyone, ah, Satan. My wife eventually cracked the case. Our daughter loves the book called Good Night Everyone. She's also really into the planets. The last line of the book is unsurprisingly good night, everyone. On the following page are drawings of the planets. We'd go through them from the edges of the solar system to the sun. She'd always happily call out Saturn, as I suspect its rings made it easy for her to spot. Hashtag TLDR, 2 years old, was quoting the last line of a book and excitedly naming Saturn and the sun, not communing with the Lord of Hell. Matthew goes, at least it wasn't the movie Bass. I have not seen that film. I've heard of it, but I have not seen it. Delay goes, isn't there a connection feeling that they have? They're probably like, even with death, they still had that twin connection. Speaking of the previous story. So instead of, she meant to say Saturn, but she was saying Satan. We also asked Katie if children usually understand that their imaginary friends are make believe. Young children are still learning to differentiate reality and fantasy. The blurred lines between real and pretend are part of the magic of early childhood, Katie explained. By the time they start kindergarten, most kids should be able to tell what's real and what isn't. They may have an emotional investment in their imaginary friend, but they know their friends is make believe. Katie also added that the way we respond to our children can affect their behaviors. I'd be really curious about the response the child is getting to these creepy stories, she said. Are they getting a big reaction from you? Any behavior that gets a lot of attention from parents is likely to be repeated, so parents may unintentionally encourage more of this creepy behavior if the stories freak them out. Yeah, but she's not explaining why. She's just like, oh, the parents are adding to this behavior. I'm like, dude. Logical Spark goes, hey there, my birthday was today. Happy birthday, Logical Spark. Guys, wish everyone in the chat, wish Logical Spark. I cannot talk today, I apologize. Everyone, wish Logical Spark a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Logical Spark. Like, I don't know, it's weird. Like, it's going over her head. I was getting a little tongue twisted there, Rochelle. Like, my mind was ahead of the words coming out of my mouth. All right, number 6. This one's kind of short. It says a kid said he didn't want to go to church because my invisible friend said he can't follow me in there. Dun dun dun. I'm sorry, this one would be kind of concerning to me. I'll be like, what do you mean your invisible friend can't go in the church? I go, what does your invisible friend look like? Out of curiosity. That one's a little concerning. And says that's crazy. It is. That one's crazy. That one to me is more spookier than the other ones. It's kind of alarming. Emily goes, just a little bit. Yes. Number 7. My son, then about 2 or 3, used to tell us about his imaginary friend Johnny, who wore all green, including a green hat. One time, we were driving by the cemetery, and my son pointed out the window and exclaimed, "That's where Johnny lives." He was very little and didn't know what a cemetery was, so we explained to him that no one lives there. It's a place for people who had died. That's when he told us that Johnny was a soldier who died in a place called Nam. Whew. There's no way that kid would know what Nam is. That is creepy. Kind of cool though. Creepy, but I find that one cool. That one's kind of cool. And although imaginary friends, so the therapist is going to chime in. And although imaginary friends are usually nothing to worry about, Katie said there are rare times when parents should step in. Sometimes kids attempt to blame their own naughty behavior on an imaginary friend, which isn't something parents need to go along with, she noted. While imaginary friends are usually helpful for developing social skills, a child who is deeply invested in their friends to the detriment of their real life friendships may need help connecting with peers. Rarely, an imaginary friend might be a child's attempt to cope with trauma or stress. If your child's imaginary friend encourages them to behave badly in real life, or says upsetting things to them, you need to intervene. It never hurts to run these concerns by a children's therapist or pediatrician, especially if you're noticing other symptoms like anxiety, behavior problems, or difficulties sleeping or eating. If you'd like to gain more wisdom from Katie, you can find her. I am not going to look for her. But I feel like, too, as a parent, and you go to a doctor and says, my kid says this, they're going to automatically think that they're 5150 when they're not. Kyle, what's up with the I see dead people? Oh, guys, I forgot. D Nice, thank you for reminding me. As always, Skeleduck is somewhere in this background. Somewhere. And just remind me at the end of the stream, and I will reveal his location. For those of you that do not know what he looks like, he is in the upper right-hand corner. That is what Skeleduck looks like. And just remind me at the end of the stream, and I will reveal his location. I almost forgot. Thank you, D Nice, for reminding me. Number 8, Purple Mommy. When my son was first learning to talk, he would tell us about something called Purple Mommy. It could be an imaginary friend, but these details are a little bit creepy. Here's a few of the Purple Mommy details. Purple Mommy is all purple with long hair and bright all white eyes. At the time, he mixed up purple with black, so he could have meant she was all black. Purple Mommy picks him up at night and turns off the lights. We would often find my son out of his crib in the morning, which would mean him crawling over the railing and to the ground at a time when he was barely walking. Definitely found the lights in his room off a few times too, even though he's terrified of the dark. Purple Mommy needs a bandage because she has blood everywhere. Purple Mommy has no smile, meaning a mouth. Purple Mommy can take her head off. Purple Mommy really doesn't like Daddy. He told us all of this stuff for maybe a year or a little more. If we ever asked where she was, he'd always point to the same spot, a corner of the room behind his open closet door. He would always wake up crying almost every night during this time. Once, during a really rough night, my wife went to ask him what's wrong, and his answer was, Purple Mommy won't let me sleep. No, it's not a butt, and it's not a dirty position skeleton, Matthew. Matthew. Rochelle goes, this world is full of a lot of things that can't be explained. That's how I look at it, but a doctor's not going to see it like that. True. I agree with you on Rochelle on that one. And Rochelle also says they are going to freak if you tell them your child has an imaginary ghost friend and that tells them to do things so odd. Yes. That's why I'd be a little reserved in telling people about, like, if I had a child and my said child had an imaginary friend, I'd be very careful to tell a doctor about it. Number 9, my youngest sister, 4 at the time, had an imaginary friend named Paris Jerish. My dad had built her a small playhouse in her backyard where my mom could see and hear her while she was in the kitchen. My sister would have tea parties and such with her imaginary friend. One day, Mom heard her say, don't worry, as long as I'm alive, they won't hurt you. She paused and said, well, if you do that, then I can't help you. It's not nice to kill people. What? When my mom asked her what that was about my sister, said, sometimes I have to tell Paris to be a nice person or he can't visit anymore. We moved not too long afterwards and she didn't get a new playhouse. Number 10. My oldest, when she was 4, she had an imaginary friend named Jack who lived under our back porch, and he liked to shove sticks down people's throats. I discouraged playtime with Jack. Yeah. Yeah. I would too. I hope not to meet Jack. Julissa goes, these stories are so... They are creepy, though. And to think the kids are saying these things, that's what's crazy. Number 11. My son had this imaginary friend, Ganga. She lived in the nearby pond, had duck feet, hair all over her face, ate through a slit in her neck, and we were expecting her any minute for dinner. He was totally chill with the horrific monster idea, yet he had reoccurring nightmares about a puppy coming into his room. Kids are weird. Matthew goes, Jack really sounds jacked up. He does. Like, I don't want to know what he was like when he was alive. I do not. Number 12. My eldest told me that his imaginary friend misses me and wishes he could have been with me longer than a month. I lost his big sister to SIDS a month after she was born, the year before I had him. That is so sad. That is so sad. Number 13. Was taking my 3-year-old niece for ice cream one evening. I strapped her into her car seat in the back seat. As I started driving, my niece asked if Jacob, her imaginary friend, could get an ice cream too. I jokingly said, Jacob can get his own ice cream. I laughed and said, just kidding, we'll get Jacob an ice cream. She didn't respond, so I looked in the rearview mirror. I couldn't see very much because it was dark. When I could see was my niece's face. She looked angry, and I was about to reassure her that I was kidding, but I realized she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at something near my ear, towards the back of my head. Then she said, I said, no, Jacob, be nice. No, she didn't mean it. Whew. Creepy. D-Nice, sorry, popping popcorn, cause bruh. Julissa goes, this is very sad. I lost my brother to SIDS when I was 6. He was a month old. I am sorry for your loss, Julissa. That is sad. Scary, too, at the same time. But stories like that, it's a testament that um the spirit does kind of come and visit you, because how would the kid know about that? And I'm pretty sure mom had never mentioned it. Obviously, probably not to a young child, probably when the child is older. I don't know if this would be considered imaginary friend, but this happened around when I was 4, 5, or 6. Don't exactly remember. It was a couple of months after my grandfather died because of lung cancer. He used to smoke, and we were living at my grandmother's at the time. One day, I was on the couch, and my grandmother was talking about her wedding with my grandfather. I ended up saying, I was at your wedding. They explained to me I wasn't, and my grandmother asked me questions about it, and I answered everyone correct about the marriage. I think this was a week before or after, but on that day, I was talking to myself. I usually talk a lot to myself, and I still do. And my mom walked in and asked who I was talking to. My mother told me. I responded with, I'm talking to Pap Pap. A couple of months passed after these events, and they started re-asking me and told me if I remembered talking to my grandfather. I forgot everything. When I was 8, I remember getting ready for school, and my grandma was still asleep. This is forever in my mind. I see a white figure, the same shape he is, and I saw him walk into the bathroom. That was the last time I saw or talked to him. D Nights goes, my high school classmate lost her firstborn to SIDS. She has 2 daughters now with the same father. They keep his memory alive with tattoos. Wow. Wendy goes, I have the best conversations with myself. I think out loud sometimes. I do. When I'm trying to like organize my thoughts, when I'm trying to get things done, I'll start thinking out loud. I don't know, that just it kind of makes things more clearer for me when I do that. My sister and I had the same exact imaginary friend when she was 6 and I was 5. Her name was Narnie. I would freak our brother out and parents out that we both would talk to her and knew exactly where she would be. They would wonder how we both would interact with her at the same time and that our descriptions of her matched. We would even talk about how she would get angry or jealous. Our parents thought for sure that it was the spirit of a child that had passed. Kyle goes, I only talk out loud to myself when I need expert advice. Rochelle goes, I think it's a known fact that a lot of the most brilliant individuals' notes to this world, like Einstein, would talk out loud to themselves. Matthew goes, a Chronicles of Narnie. Heather, whatever, what is up? I've mentioned this before, but my sister Ashley used to get visited at night by a dead girl with long dark hair and spider hands. Yes, this predated The Ring. Yes, I'm old as fuck. She moved out the second she turned 18, never looked back. 20 odd years later, our half brother Trevor moved into her old room. It wasn't long after Trevor started sleeping on the sofa or with the lights on and told us about his new friend that he didn't like. She was a dead girl who had long dark hair, an old nightgown, and spider hands. Needless to say, none of us offered to trade rooms with him. I don't think I would have. Chris Chris Barber goes, I talk to my dogs way too much. I talk to my outside cats, even though they give me a smug look every time I see them. But I know they're listening. When my daughter was a toddler, she randomly started talking about a man named Don. She always described him the same way and didn't seem scared at all, despite bringing him up every day. She didn't go to daycare and we didn't know anyone named Don. Then one day she got completely freaked out, wouldn't walk around the house alone in case she ran into Don, wouldn't sleep in her own room, and would talk about how she hated him because he said mean words to her all the time. About a year into Mean Don, we bought a new house. Once we moved, she never spoke of him again. Whew. Wendy goes, the Ring series messed me up. I don't think I've seen the Japanese version of the Ringu. I've seen I see Ju-on. I've seen Ju-on. I've seen the Japanese version of The Grudge, but I don't think I've seen the Japanese version of The Ring. So I'm going to have to put that on my list. My youngest niece had an imaginary friend, and when my sister told me about it, she said, ask her what she looks like. Okay, what does she look like? Broken pieces. Oh, why is she broken, sweetie? She fell from our tree. Nope, sorry, sis, you're on your own. Eeyore Blues, what is up? That is creepier. Julissa saying the Japanese version of The Ring is so good. Kyle goes, the Japanese Ring has Looney Tune sound effect. My cousin was a few years younger than me, and he had an imaginary friend called Mookie. Mookie wasn't human, but some kind of alien monster thing. Used to freak me out when I'd hear a noise behind me at my grandparents' house, and my cousin would calmly say, it's only Mookie. He just wants to see you. Dun, dun, dun. When my son was about 3 years old, we were living with my mom in an older apartment. I'd always gotten a weird vibe from it. The atmosphere felt heavy and a little oppressive, but I assumed it was just because of the age. However, my son started waking up in the middle of the night and would talk to his friend, who he described as the Hat Man. He would always wake up and tell the Hat Man he didn't want to go play with him because he was supposed to be asleep and that he'd see him tomorrow. This was always followed by him waking me up and asking for a glass of water. I knew it wasn't just an imaginary friend when one night I heard him talking, and when he said he'd see him tomorrow, the door to his room closed on its own. This stopped completely once we moved out. They also said, I think I talked about the Hat Man, and they had said that it could be a it could be from sleep paralysis. Gunner Girl goes, Lisa, I wish you were a teacher at my school. I would definitely get A's listening to your stories. Thank you, Gunner Girl. I appreciate that. Not an imaginary friend per se, but my niece, as a toddler, made a pretty convincing case that she was reincarnated. From the time she could lisp her first word, she carried on about someone called Tertha or Trutha or something odd like that. Sometimes she called herself Tertha or Tertha, and a fair number of her dolls had those or similar names. By the time she was 2 or 3, she talked nonstop about her other mommy and her sister and how she, Tertha, and her other mommy and sister were in a car accident and then were in the hospital and her other mommy died. I mean, she wouldn't quit about it. My sister neither discouraged her from telling the stories nor encouraged her. She would always finish up with the punchline. Then, after my other mommy passed, then I was in your stomach. Imagine a little child, big eyes, looking up at you, rattling on about this. She pretty much stopped by the time she was 6, and by 8, didn't remember this at all. We figured she had forgotten her reincarnation. Whew! I've never had anything like that but I've heard of people having memories of past events of like being someone else. Thank you, Wendy. When I was 6, I had a friend who was a little younger than me, and her imaginary friend was not a very nice person. She used to tell me how her imaginary friend, Mr. G, made her hurt between her legs. What? And how he tasted funny and made funny noises. She was absolutely terrified of him. She told me Mr. G was very, very tall with no hair and very mean eyes. After a few sleepovers, my mom wouldn't let me have sleepovers at her house anymore, and then she and her mom moved away. Her father didn't go with them. He was a very tall man with no hair and mean eyes. Oh, hopefully that disgusting man, they press charges on him. That's disgusting. That was definitely not an imaginary friend. I hate people like that because it's like, dude, and it's sad. It's like, nah. When I was little, it was pretty firmly established that I had an imaginary friend named Other. Other had the same name as me, so I just called him Other. I would tell my mom that Other was being mean to me and wants to steal Dad's bike. I remember I told my father that Other was very mad at him for hurting me. He was an abusive piece of work, and he literally threw me across the room. I asked my mom about it as an adult, and she told me my father had a brother that I was named after and wasn't told about because shortly before I was born, he died in a motorcycle accident. That guy, I hope, ended up somewhere too. But then again, it also shows um that even after death, your sibling still watches over you. Matthew goes, seriously, WTF, hope prison for him because they don't like that kind of crap either. Exactly. A long term in prison. No, it's not Anne. Unfortunately, there's creepy people out there. There are. And they disgust me. Because no one deserves that. Rochelle goes, I tend to agree with that, especially studying up on the energy level. I tend to agree that absolutely there's a whole another dimension of people watching over you, that what it over you, what it is there still. Thank you, Chris. Gunner Girl goes, there's a state that now that does castrations for dude, I hope all the states do that. I know it sounds cruel and punishment, but dude, seriously. Like what the harm that you put on that person for life? Seriously. Rochelle goes, I meant to type the astral plane. That's why what they call it. It is sad. My little sister had an imaginary friend called Rhymy Guy. From when she was 2 to about 5 years old, he was half hamster, half man, 6 inches tall, and always spoke in rhymes. Once, she randomly began freaking out in the middle of the meal, and when we asked why, she said that Rhymy Guy had jumped into her mouth and she had swallowed him. About an hour later, she started complaining that she hurt because Rhymy Guy was eating her insides. She said her stomach and chest hurt for the next week or so, and she would tell us that she was trying to poop him out, but he kept crawling back in. It was totally creepy, and after that incident, she told us that Rhymy Guy wasn't her friend anymore, and that she was scared to go to sleep because he might crawl back inside her. My mom had to take him out of the room every night to get her to go to sleep. When she was 5.5 or so, she told us that Rhymy Guy left to find another girl to climb inside of. The mind of a child is truly wonderful. And then someone had commented, how can a story be goofy and disturbing at the same time like this? Ha! I haven't thought of this in a while, but when my son was younger, six-ish, I'm getting tongue twisted there. He had an imaginary friend named Boney Akiki. Boney Akiki was a skeleton man. Honestly, my son only ever had the nicest things to say about Boney Akiki, so he wasn't very scary, even for a skeleton man. That story was cute about the skeleton man. Rochelle goes, hold on. What did you say, Rochelle? Rochelle goes, oh my God, someone just walked past me right when you said he was eating her insides. I just received a really odd look standing outside the hospital, too. Whoa, creepy. That is creepy. For context, for the next story, my bedroom was in the attic. When my brother was 4, he told me about the man who lived in the attic. Apparently, he would hear someone walking around in the attic when I wasn't in there. He said he'd seen someone's head poking out of the hatch watching him at night, and that he was sorry he'd been too scared to do anything about the man in the bedroom. I no longer live with them. I was talking to the same brother, now age 10, about him taking the bigger attic bedroom. Now it's empty. My youngest brother, 5, immediately answered, but where will the man live? And goes, "This is the true Lisa after dark." Oh, Rochelle's not using headphones, so they're hearing what I'm saying. No, that now I get it. They're like, "What?" A baby cousin and her family moved into a new apartment in the Middle East. Baby cousin would go out to the balcony and play with someone. According to her mom, talk, run around, laugh, etc. Mom asked who she's talking to, and she said it was her new friend. Mom got concerned and told her to stop playing there. Later, the dad started feeling like a child would come sit on his lap when he sat on the couch. Felt the weight, the warmth of a child, but there was nothing there. They would hear kids' voices and stuff would disappear and all too. They moved shortly after. Someone commented, probably just a jinn. Rochelle goes, "Yeah, it was so awkward. I had to explain to the lady, oh, I'm just watching ghost stories. Pardon what what you just said." Nah, it was out. They were at the wrong place at the wrong time. There you go. One night, I was reading a story to our 3-year-old and he started laughing. He was looking over my shoulder, so I asked him what he was laughing at, and he answered, "The little girl by the door is being silly." I looked back, terrified of what I might see, and as I did, he stated, "Oh, she ran away." Needless to say, I called my husband at work and told him I would not be sleeping a minute that night. My cousin had an imaginary friend who she said used to live in the fireplace and was red and patchy, as if she was burnt. Apparently, she was a little girl who wore funny clothes that looked like olden day clothes. Still spooks me out. Could be someone I had commented I would look into the history of the house. Did someone get badly burned and pass there? Old pictures would be nice to find. True. You never know what happens in a place that you've lived that can explain why you were seeing it. My son had an imaginary friend that was an angel. I'd always heard that angels would convince kids to go with them. So I was not comfortable at all when he would tell me about this angel. Come to find out, a child had apparently drowned in the tiny pool in the far corner of the yard. So maybe the dead child's angel was looking for a playmate? Yeah, I had that pond filled in with dirt real quick. And then someone goes, could have been a demon posing as an angel. True. Possibility. Let me see if I could pull up some other ones. All right, hold on. I got some more. The sign of the cross. My daughter used to tell me about a man who came into her room every night and put the sign of the cross on her forehead. I thought it was just a dream. Then my mother in law sent over some family photos. My daughter looked right at the picture of my husband's father, who had been dead for 16 years, and said, "That's the man who comes into my room at night." My husband later told me his father would always do the sign of the cross on his forehead when he was young. D Nice goes, that reminds me of the ghost girl under the bed in The Sixth Sense. I remember thinking in that movie, like, the lady is wearing red. That was kind of the girl underneath the bed. That was sad because her mother was, if you're familiar with The Sixth Sense, her mother was making her sick. And the daughter basically had told Haley Joel Osment, I don't remember his name, his character of his name, of what had happened to her. I always liked ghost stories like that because it was kind of like the truth had come out and then she could rest. Julissa goes, she was poisoning her. It is a good movie. Emily Parkinson. Dodo and Dee Dee. When my older daughter was 2 or 3, she used to have a couple imaginary friends, Dodo and Dee Dee. They were typical imaginary friends. She would talk to them and play with them and tell me about their lives. Then one day, when she was about 3, she was talking on her play phone when I walked into the room. She hung up her phone and said to me with a completely flat voice and deadpan expression, "The evil is coming." Icy. In high school, one of my best friends had a little sister who was 5 or 6 years old. One day, we stopped by his place completely high because he needed to get his magic cards. While waiting for him to come downstairs, his sister came up to me and said, "Icy told me to ask you if you know when you're going to die." I laughed nervously, morbid question, right? But I knew all about Icy, her imaginary friend. I even helped her draw a picture of him once. So I played along and said, "No, of course not. No one knows that. Hopefully, when I'm very old." The girl shook her head sadly and said, "No, Icy wants me to tell you. It'll be tonight." And with that, she just walked away. That's creepy. Shh. I was 17 and babysitting a friend of the family's 6-year-old. He'd been in bed a couple of hours and I just peeked in to check on him. He wasn't in the bed, and when I opened the door wider, I saw he was standing in the corner facing the wall. Creepiest effing thing ever. I asked him what he was doing, and all he did was turn around, smile, and put his finger to his lips as if to say, "Shh." I asked him again what he was doing, and all he says is, "Leave us. It is the punishment." That's creepy too. Emily goes, "Well, she lived to tell the story." Exactly. But that's still creepy. Heather whatever goes, "When I was little, my mom had put wind chimes outside my window, but I didn't know it. That night, I couldn't sleep because I thought angels were coming to take me to heaven. I've always had faith." I liked the show one. Shh, one. That was kind of scary. Roger, my little brother's imaginary friend Roger, lived under our coffee table. Roger had a wife and 9 kids. Roger and his family lived peacefully alongside us for 3 years. One day, my little brother announced that Roger wouldn't be around anymore since he pew-pewed him and his whole family. I don't know if he remembers any of this, but the genuine lack of remorse was very disturbing. That is. Kid I used to babysit had imaginary friends. They were dead. One had no head, one was an old lady. They were both bloody. The one with no head had insides sticking out of his neck. I didn't ask him questions about them because F that. I don't blame her or him. Rochelle goes, "I agree with Anne. This is definitely Lisa After Dark." The captain. A parent of one of my students told us in a meeting that she was concerned because her son, 7 years old, talked about an invisible ghost who would talk to him and play with him in his room. He said the ghost was called the captain and was an old white guy with a beard. The kid would tell his mom that the captain told him when he grows up, his job will be to kill people, and the captain would tell him who needed to be killed. The kid would cry and say he doesn't want to kill when he grows up. But the captain tells him he doesn't have a choice and he'll get used to killing after a while. That is creepy. Now I'm wondering what the kid grew up to be. Cuz maybe it's a for yeah, that's weird. Out of curiosity. Jalissa goes, "This makes me think it's a demon." Yes. I would think that too cuz that's like a little disturbing. But at the same time I'm wondering if it was foretelling his future, you know what I mean? Mary, my wife and I overheard my 2-year-old daughter on the baby monitor wake up on Saturday morning and say, "What? Okay, I'll tell her." Then get up and come into our bedroom and told my wife, "Mary says you're doing a good job." Mary was her grandmother that she was extremely close to that had passed away. I love stories like that. That's a cute story. I love stories like that. Lisa Boo goes, "Disturbing about the captain." It is. Angels. When my brother was little, he acted like he had angels talking to him every second. One day, my mom overheard him say, "I can't kill him. He's my only dad." That, yeah, that's not an angel. Rochelle goes, "Oh, I saw your ad. Have you been shopping for chakra bracelets lately?" No, but I do like their bracelets. But I have, it's weird though. I haven't been looking at them. So maybe they're trying to tell me something. Creeper Man. My son from the age of 3 always tells me about the Creeper Man who lives in my mom and dad's bedroom. He brings it up after he visits them. I made the mistake once of asking what he looks like. My son said, "Oh, he doesn't have a face." Dun dun dun! The Underwater Girl. My grandfather had a camp on Lake Daring in New Hampshire when I was a kid. One day, when I was 6 or so, I fell off the dock and into the water. I couldn't swim. While under, I distinctly remember seeing a little girl down there who told me to look up towards the sun and just keep kicking and I'd be fine. I swam to the surface just in time for my grandfathers to swoop me up and pull me back on the dock. Wow. These are creepy. These are creepy. The Easter Bunny. When I was 16, I babysat twins who were in the 3rd grade at the time. They always spoke of a man in an Easter Bunny costume, and they were terrified of him. One day, I was babysitting, and one twin was in the shower. His brother and I were sitting downstairs watching television when all of a sudden he said, "You need to go check on Matt." Seconds later, Matt yelled, "He's in here! He's in here!" I ran upstairs and I had to check every room before he would calm down. I'm not sure which part of the experience freaked me out the most. Rochelle goes, we totally need that in an emoji. Don't. I know I need to make that. Let me know. I should. Let me write that down. Because that would be a cool emoji. Matthew goes, Simpsons. Skinner had an argument with his brother that separated the room. He said, "Man without a face." Skinner didn't even know he had a problem. Amityville. When my daughter was 3, she had an imaginary friend named Kelly who lived in her closet. Kelly sat in a little rocking chair while she slept, played with her, etc. Typical imaginary friend crap. Anyway, fast forward 2 years later, the wife and I are watching the new Amityville, the one with Ryan Reynolds, and our daughter walks out right when dead girl goes all black eyed. Far from being disturbed, she said, "That looks like Kelly." "Kelly who?" we said. "You know, the dead girl that lived in my closet." D Nice goes, "Thank you, Leonore, for the dun dun dun." The prettiest girl. When my younger brother was around 4, he had an imaginary friend named Victoria Meadowbrook. He told us that she was the prettiest girl ever and she floated above his bed at night. That one's not as bad. That one's kind of cute. Spooky guy. As a kid, I said that my imaginary friend was a ghost. I called him Spooky Guy and said he died in the garage of the house on the hill behind ours. I even came up with his death. He was a 16-year-old who got in a car crash and walked to that house to ask to use their phone. Died in the 70s. The person lived there, grabbed him, and what? And killed him. He was my imaginary friend as far back as I can remember. This scared my mom so much that she tried to look up records to see if that happened and got me a therapist. That one is crazy, guys. All right, guys, what did you think of those stories? Matthew goes, note to self, when you have kids, wall up the closet door. That's why I always close my closet door. I mean, it's kind of open a little bit, but that's the reason why I close it before I go to bed. Rochelle goes, scary and good. I liked them. They were good stories. Always like a good scary. The weird thing is these are what people have actually experienced. Rochelle goes, maybe that's why I always overfill all my closets so I know nobody can fit in there. Heather whatever goes, the last one scared me. That one was crazy, but the way that the person was describing was that they had made it up. But like to make that up at that young of an age, that's crazy. Tammy goes, I can't. My closet does not have a door. Oh my God, Tammy. Put a curtain. I just recently cleaned my closet, so now you can get into my closet. D Nice goes, it is heartwarming when kids in your family describe past loved ones. I do like that. I do like that. Out of all the stories, I did like those stories. They're sad, but at the same time, it's like proof to show that that our past family members, whoever it may be, do watch over us. Julissa goes, Tammy, that might be even better. Half closed doors are scarier. Heather, whatever goes, I need to clean mine so I can mess it up again. All right, guys, I am opening it up for questions. If you guys have any questions, ask away. It could be paranormal related. Doesn't have to be, but could be. I still got to organize in here. I haven't done that yet. I'm trying to figure out. It's this side of the room, not back here. That's staying the same. I have to figure out, like, how am I going to organize things? That's why I haven't started yet. Rochelle is asking, where's Skeledeck? I'll give you guys a few more minutes. Like, ask me again in 5 minutes. I'll give you guys like 5 minutes. Because I technically had the screen kind of covered with the article. With Skeledeck. Just remind me. D Nice goes, my closet doors have been broken for a long time. Still remember that Filipino movie I mentioned about the dead girl in the closet trying to tell the new tenants about who exed her? Oh, that's why my closet door is closed. Plus, it's the entrance to the attic in my house. That's why I'm like, nope. That way, it gives you time to see Skeledeck, because for most of the stream, it was tiny. Matthew goes, you would think Seeky socks would deter ghosts when it does the living. Well, I have my dirty clothes in my closet. So maybe that deters anything from coming out of it. Rochelle goes, I like to have all light colored like bins and stuff in the closet so it's less scary to brighten it up. Angel, how's it going? Julissa found him. I'll give y'all a few more minutes. Just remind me if I do forget. Few more minutes. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Could be paranormal related, could be general. Mad Monster. For some of you that are going, Mad Monster is about a month away now, so I cannot wait. In July in Phoenix, Arizona. I cannot wait for my Dutch Brothers coffee. There's also a food place there that is not out here in California that I love, so I'm definitely going to hit there too. And I'm excited to see everyone too as well. Heather White goes, I'm sneezing too much. Big Pauling can't find duck. Achoo. I had that problem when I went to Vegas. I had really bad allergies. So I'm hoping that I don't get an allergy attack out here. Luckily, I've been sneezing, but not that bad. Even though I have a Dutch Brothers coffee like 30 minutes from me, that's the only place I go to for it. Which is funny. Don't ask me why. Julissa goes, please stream your trip like you did last year. I definitely will, Julissa. Don't worry. It's one of my favorite conventions, so I will definitely stream it and show all y'all that cannot make it. So you'll be with us there as well. I'll tell you what the weather's like. I know last year I think it was 112. Not looking forward to the heat, but like I said, I like dry heat for a bit. After that, forget it. I'm like, good for my skin, and then I'm like, no, it's not. It is a horror convention, so I'm looking forward to see all the vendors and the celebrities that walk by and see all the people. It is on the weekend. Gunner Girls asking, is it on the 12th? It is on the weekend. Yes, the 12th through the 14th of July. And it's going to be hot. I know every year we go, it's hot. Thank you, Heather Whatever, as well for your PayPal hearts for Heather Whatever. Thank you, Heather Whatever. I appreciate that. I hate it when I miss people because I tend to do that. And goes, can't wait. I cannot wait. I am so excited. So one thing, every year I go, I have I always say this year is better than the last. And then I like a good I like a good road trip too, so I'm looking forward to the road trip. Gunner Girl goes, awesome. We will see you there. I'm so excited. Miss y'all so much. Awesome, Gunner Girl. I know Bernadette and Brandon are going to be there. Leonora, I believe, is going to be there as well. Shelly, I think, is going to be there. I'm not sure who else. Myself and Lewis will be there. But I will definitely be streaming for you guys, so you guys can be there as well for the people that cannot make it to the heat. All right, guys, Skeleduck is right there where my finger is. I mean, I forgot that I don't know if you guys can see him, but on my end, I have a timer and it kind of covers him. But he's right here, right where my finger is. He's in between my Dead Mouse, Funko Pop, and Gizmo. That funny thing is, I got that gizmo at Mad Monster last year. So he's right there, right where my finger is. Matthew goes, yes, I saw him earlier. Rochelle goes, oh my God, that is correct where I thought he was. Lisa Boo, yes, I found him. At first, I thought he was covered because, like, on my end, it's like covered because I have like the timer. And I was like, oh no, he's covered. All right, guys, any last minute questions before I end this stream? Tyrana goes, yes, I was right. Awesome. Kind of, I mean, I didn't hide him per se. I put him out in the open this time. Heather, whatever goes, a scary one. I liked the stories. I did. I actually found it by accident. So sometimes the things that you find by accident tend to be the diamond in the rough. Thank you, Rochelle, saying great live. Lisa Boo goes, thank you, Lisa. Great stream. Thank you, Lisa Boo. Make sure I didn't forget anybody because I hate when I do that. Julissa goes, these stories were very scary, spooky stream. Thank you, Julissa. All right, guys. Matthew had if you guys are in my Discord, Matthew had shared an article about a spooky movie about someone dating a boogeyman. So if you guys are on my Discord, check that out. But I'm going to end the stream here, guys. Thank you for joining me on this edition of Grayson Report. I will see you on the next one, which will be Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Be there, be squared, stay spooky, guys, and sweet nightmares. And I'll see you on the next one. Good night, guys, and thank you. You guys are awesome.